and gentlemen, very warm welcome to the show. Thank you so much for watching Smart 24 TV, where we drive your business. My name is Anthony, and you're watching Financial Markets. This is the show where we gladly bring you to your living room market information. And this is in as far as the global financial markets are concerned, the local domestic stocks here in Uganda, as well as in the region, East Africa, and the biggest players in the African market as well. My name is Anthony, and you can follow me on Twitter at Anthony Sebale, and you can follow Smart 24 TV as well at Smart 24 TV. Remember also to catch the latest business content online at www.smart24tv.com for more information. And we gladly bring you this show with the help of Altex East Africa. Altex is the #1 private stock exchange in East Africa. Started in 2017, a serious business and licensed by the Capital Markets Authority. The company currently helps you buy treasury bonds and exchange traded funds on treasury bonds in East Africa. We're talking about bonds in Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, and around, of course, Africa, for probably in the time to come. But for now, Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania are where we are situated. You can buy bonds by simply now dialing *292# under the Zabu initiative, and this way you will be able to open up into the market, but also get to register with Altex East Africa and start your trading. Remember, to start with, you need 15,000 minimum to be able to trade. This is something we haven't seen anywhere in East Africa, and it's only Altex that actually is bringing it to your table. Altex markets open at exactly 15 minutes past 8 a.m. and close at 15 minutes past the hour of 3 p.m. East African Standard Time. Altex East Africa doing something new. And of course, you're very welcome now on board the financial markets, where we get to drive you into the world of what the stock market performances for the days before war. And today we are looking at the Tuesday, that is yesterday, and getting to look into Wednesday as well, and where we are headed towards the second week of 2023. Basically looking average on the African market. The markets majorly on the big stock exchanges were down. For example, looking at the Ghana Stock Exchange, the company lost about 2.28 points on their all-share index, the Ghana Stock Exchange Consumer Index, with several companies losing there. Johannesburg Stock Exchange as well dropped about 156.89 points on the J203, which is also a benchmark index as well from the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, the largest and busiest stock exchange in the largest stock exchange on the continent as Africa. Nigeria as well lost some value at exactly about 246.48 points that were lost. And so Nairobi Securities Exchange lost about 1.15 points, down by 0.91%. Zimbabwe Stock Exchange appreciated or gained 241.46 on their benchmark index, which was one of the most remarkable performances on the African continent. Back to Uganda. Uganda had the best day in as far as the indexes are concerned. Uganda had a very, very good second day of trading this week. The Uganda Securities Exchange all-share index appreciated over 274.66 points. This is the biggest gain in a very, very long time. Looking at the statistics here, we last got to this kind of level in the year 2022 during the month of March. And the index closed at over 1,498 points, very close to the 1,500 mark. Basically, this could be attributed to the stocks that are cross-listed that gained very huge on the Uganda Securities Exchange. The local company index, on the other hand, unfortunately declined by over 1.26%, down to 272.91 points that are currently being counted on the local company index. This makes it a 1 week gain of close to 0.1% and a 4 week gain of 0.16%, and a year-to-date gain of 0.09% on the local company index as well. There were no losers. There was just one loser though on the market, and this was only MTN Uganda, losing about 2.21% there from the last closing price, down to 180.01 Ugandan shillings. That is MTN Uganda for you. But generally, the trading on the Uganda Securities Exchange contracted a little bit in volume, with major companies like Umeme not even participating. And of course, that did affect how much volume we had, and that made a contraction in the number of shares that were traded on the second day compared to the first day, where we had big trading from Umeme's, MTN, and Stanbic. This time around, it was a little bit mediocre. It wasn't that aggressive as we saw on Monday. Now, in aggregate, just 3 companies on the USE, Uganda Securities Exchange, participated in trading, ending the day with 7 gainers and just 1 bottom loser. Interestingly, Jubilee Holdings Limited came out at the top of the gainers list with a gain of 37.08%, up to 7,992 Ugandan shillings. Now, Jubilee Holdings has had a fairly rough 2022, but getting into 2023, we are hoping for better performances. This is a Kenyan insurance company that has been in operation since 1937, and this is in the East African region in Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania. The company's operations in Uganda were revived in 1992 as Uganda Jubilee Holdings, or Uganda Jubilee Insurance Company. The company also, together with Aga Khan Fund Development, Economic Development, the International Finance Corporation, and the Development Finance Company of Uganda, were able to revive this insurance brand here in Uganda back in 1992. Now, on the stock exchange, the company currently represents about 1.86% of all the equities market on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Currently, we are talking about 479 billion Ugandan shillings worth of market capitalization on the Jubilee Holding stock. The company makes, of course, the 8th most valuable stock on the Uganda Securities Exchange, with their current 479 billion Ugandan shillings. After yesterday's trading, the company gained over 2,161 Ugandan shillings to about 7,992, which was their biggest gain for a very long time, since last year around the month of September. This was when they were trading at around 8,000 Ugandan shillings. Currently at 7,992 Ugandan shillings. They gained biggest on the Uganda Securities Exchange as per data from yesterday's trading. Currently, they have about 59.9 million shares outstanding on the Uganda Securities Exchange, with a huge market capitalization of over 479 billion Ugandan shillings currently that is being counted on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Jubilee Holdings hasn't had any activity this year. Neither did we see much of activity last year in 2022 on the company. Hopefully this year maybe things could change, but on the Nairobi Securities Exchange, definitely you will find a very active stock on Jubilee Holdings. East African Breweries Limited in the second place in terms of the biggest gainers of the day. And this company rocked the market with a gain of 36.17% after appreciating by 1,844.32 Ugandan shillings. Now, the company currently has a total market capitalization of over 5.49 trillion Ugandan shillings, making it the second most valuable on the Uganda Securities Exchange, coming behind Equity Bank Limited. Currently, the company represents about 21.3% of the entire Uganda Securities Exchange. And after yesterday's gain, the company was up to 6,943.05 Ugandan shillings. Now, imagine the stock was a very active stock. How much money would you have made in a single day? 1,844 shillings per share. That's how much value you're getting in a single day. Unfortunately, there's no way you're going to sell these shares probably in the near future, because we don't have much trading currently on these cross listings. But we can change this. We can change this. We can make money off the stock market. We can encourage our friends to start trading. We can encourage friends to buy shares and get to know the value of keeping your money in the stock markets. It's really important, because I'm looking at this big gain and I'm wondering if somebody had, for example, 1 million shares and they were selling them today at 6,943 Ugandan shillings. It means that if they bought those shares on Tuesday, or rather Monday, where the stock price was still under 6,000, at about 5,900, they would be making at least 1,000 per share. Now, 1,000 per share means if you're selling 1 million shares, you're going to make 1 billion shillings. I know it sounds crazy, but it can happen, though it's unlikely for now on the Uganda Securities Exchange, where we have very small volumes being traded, especially on the cross listings. But I'm just putting for you what it can actually do, what it means to be a trader on the stock exchange. This can actually happen in a single day. In a place where you had 5,000, you have 6,000, just like that, right? The cost of the share, remember, is determined by the demand and supply. Mainly, that's what determines the price of a given stock. But of course, there are factors outside demand and supply, like the foreign exchange rate, which comes in especially for the domestic, or rather the cross listings from other countries, or that are those companies that are listing in the secondary stock markets. That definitely comes in there, and it could tamper with the pricings, but mainly the demand and supply. So if people really are on they are trying to get these stocks, they're trying to buy these stocks, and hence making them valuable, hence making them of high demand, this will drive their prices up. And when investors sell at high prices, they make a profit. As simple as that, right? And with the stock market, you don't have to go around vending your stock. People find you wherever you are. The stockbroker will do the magic for you. They will do the transaction. It will be seamless. And that's the beauty of the stock exchange. But unfortunately, just like many cross listings, the East African Breweries Company did not have any traded shares, or despite this gain in price. Currently, the shares outstanding, we have about 791 million shares on the East African Breweries Limited company, with the total market capitalization coming to 5.49 trillion now, after the increment in the price of this stock. Away from East African Breweries, by the way, East African Breweries now is going into 101 years after making 100 years last year. It has been in operation since 1922. KCB was another big gainer. KCB, a very great financial institution listed in the Nairobi Stock Exchange primarily, but also cross-listed here on the Uganda Securities Exchange. as a big financial institution. Now, KCB Group is listed on the Uganda Securities Exchange since 2010 on the 19th of October. KCB is trading under the ticker symbol KCB currently on the Uganda Stock Exchange and is the third most valuable on the Uganda Stock Exchange. I think this is going to take some time for us to recover because most of now the cross listings are getting to increase in value, and this is driving their market capitalization upwards, because as we know, market capitalization is the price multiplied by the shares. So appreciation in price, same shares, higher market capitalization, and the vice versa as well. So because of these big gains, these companies are taking over the stock exchange in terms of value. But will this be sustainable? Let's watch throughout today and see if it will be sustainable, and see if there will be some trading as well, because there hasn't been any for the past couple of months on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Now, KCB counts total 413 shillings that was added to their price, up to 1,566 Ugandan shillings per share. Now, KCB is one of those financial institutions that has also been very consistent at giving dividends, very great leadership in the company, where, of course, Mr. Joshua Oigara just left office last year to hand it over to Mr. Paul Russo, who is now currently the Chief Executive Officer of the company. The company enjoys a very great wealth of assets on the African continent, with several in Uganda, in Tanzania, and in Kenya as well. Currently, the company has gained over 36.4% on their 1 week share price. Pretty great performance there, and a 26.2% on the 4 week performance there, and 3 months they have seen a gain of over 14.3% on the company's stock price. Now, looking at basically the beginning of the year, the company began with 1,144.54 Ugandan shillings, and since then it has gained about 36.9%, which is the second best ranked company when it comes to the year-to-date performance. I know the year-to-date means now about 2 weeks ago or less, actually, because we've just got into a new year, but still, nevertheless, the company is among the big movers there, and the big boys gaining in the year-to-date performance. Shareholders can also be optimistic with a 26% rise over the past 4 weeks, and this alone is the 8th best on the Uganda Securities Exchange, and that is on Kenya Commercial Bank. Away from Kenya Commercial Bank, Nation Media Group appreciated 35.37%, up to 649.35 Ugandan shillings as well, coming in as a big gain there for Nation Media Group. And of course, finally, we are now above the 500 shillings mark where we were last year. And so kudos there to Nation Media Group and all the investors in the company. Currently, Nation Media Group is the 14th most valuable stock on the Uganda Securities Exchange, with a total of 122 billion Ugandan shillings worth of market capitalization that is floated on the exchange, representing about 0.475% of the entire Uganda Securities Exchange equity market. Now, if you are like me and you can see the graph, the company has, of course, that very sharp increase from 500 shillings up to about 649, close to 650 Ugandan shillings in just a single day. We last saw this kind of pricing back in last year, 2022, around the month of July. That's when we last saw this kind of gain on the Nation Media Group. Currently, the company has about 189 million shares that are loaded on the exchange, with a total of 122 billion Ugandan shillings worth of market capitalization. And that is KCB Group for you as well. Away from KCB, we did have the Equity Bank Limited appreciating as well on the stock exchange. I'm telling you, it was the day for the cross listings. How I wish they did participate in the trading as well. It would be a much better and more amazing day for all of us. Now, currently, Equity Bank Limited, the company rose by 458 Ugandan shillings up to 1,820 Ugandan shillings per share. Now, Equity Group Holdings has been the most valuable stock on the Uganda Securities Exchange for a very long while. But just yesterday, the company made a total of 6.74 million trillion Ugandan shillings. And this is market capitalization for a single company on the Uganda Securities Exchange, representing over 46.2% of what remains there on the Uganda Securities Exchange. The company did not trade anything, but currently they have about 3.7 billion shares in store that is in the pockets of the shareholders, and about 6.74 trillion that currently is being accounted for by the 1,820 Ugandan shillings share price, and that is Equity Group Holdings. Kenya Airways as well gained over 32.35% on their stock price, and this was to gain up to 153.05 Ugandan shillings after the 37.5 Ugandan shillings gain on Kenya Airways. Currently, the company has over 870 billion Ugandan shillings, which represents about 3.7% of the entire Uganda Securities Exchange equities market. My friend, those were the top gainers. Remember, we had only one loser, and that was MTN Uganda. Now we're going to take a very quick breather. We return with winding up, of course, these markets with the MTN company and see what MTN had for us on their last day of trading, and then we shall slide into other stock exchanges across Africa and the rest of the world. My name is Anthony. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Smart 24, driving business.
The taste of Uganda in a new international park.
Sebo oba nyabo olilandira odi oba oyina ekifo ekipangisibwa URA ekujjukiza okwewandiisa ofune ennamba ey'omusolo eyitibwa tax identification number abasinga gye mumanyi nga TIN. Ennamba eyo ejja kuyamba okwanjula n'okusasulirako omusolo. Tusima balandiroodi abaamala edda okwewandiisa n'okusasula omusolo gwabwe, era tukubiriza abo bonna abatannaba kwewandiisa bakozese akaseera kano beewandiise. Tukolere wamu okulaakulanya eggwanga lyaffe.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
Smart 24, driving business.
Welcome back to the program. Thank you so much for watching Smart 24 TV, where we drive your business. My name is Anthony and I am your host. This is Financial Markets, and we are still getting to look into the stocks here at the Uganda Stock Exchange as per the trading of yesterday. The show is proudly brought to you by Altex East Africa. And my friend, if you're watching Smart 24 TV and you're not yet a subscriber to Altex, you're doing a great disservice to yourself and to your family. Get your phone, dial *292# and then follow the prompts. You can register, you can learn more about the products and get to learn more about treasury bonds. Remember, today, in the world we are living in, if you're not using money to invest and you're still keeping money in those tiny boxes, you are doing a great disservice to your country as well. So to get rid of those old styles of keeping money, get to invest and make more money out of your savings. And Altex East Africa is saying they can make it easy for you. You can do something new. Simply dial *292# and witness the magic of trading on treasury bonds across East Africa. Currently, governments around the world are in need of money, and this has inspired our own governments who are actually looking for more money to finance different projects that governments are running. But how are they going to get to finance these projects? Through lending and borrowing, of course being lent by the public. And we've had an issue in East Africa of foreign borrowing, and this has led to a lot of problems financially in terms of governance and different other conditions that we might have to fulfill because of being in debt. But now that we are borrowing from our own, we can easily get back the value of that money, because as you're paying the interest, you're paying it to your own people, you're injecting it back into the economy with which you're working. So treasury bonds are a very good way to support government, but also to get your money returned. And this return comes every 6 months. Remember, it's an annual return, but it's divided into two, so you can get halfway and already have that return coming in. As well, the initial deposit which you made to the bank or whatever institution comes back after the maturity period. So Altex provides you with all those details there. They give you the number of years, which bonds you want to invest in. Of course, the longer term bonds like the 20-year, 25-year, 30-year are much more highly priced or have higher interests. And then the shorter term have smaller interest, but the difference is usually meager and can be actually endured. So it's nothing really big for a difference. So you can invest now in the bonds by simply dialing *292# and following the prompts. You can also follow Altex East Africa on Twitter at Altex East Africa, and visit www.altexeastafrica.com to learn more about their products. Altex East Africa, doing something new. Thank you so much for once again joining us, and you're watching Smart 24 TV, where we drive your business. Now, before we went into the break, we mentioned MTN Uganda as the only loser on the Uganda Securities Exchange. The company lost a total value of about, MTN lost about 4 shillings, down to 180.01 Ugandan shillings. MTN is that company where you think, okay, today we are up there, and then the next day they're back down, and it's kind of disappointing. But we keep going. The company is still currently enjoying, actually it has been moved from the second most valuable company to the 4th most valuable. Of course, this has been due to the movements in price of the cross listings that have moved in terms of market capitalization as well. Now, MTN Uganda currently is the 4th most valuable, with about 4.03 trillion Ugandan shillings market capitalization, coming behind Equity Group Holdings, as well as KCB Group and East African Breweries Limited, who is coming in the 2nd place. Currently, it represents about 15.6% of the entire equities market on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Looking at yesterday, they had about 77,800 shares, that 77,800 shares that were traded, and the day ended with the company value of about 14 million Ugandan shillings that was traded on their shares. Shares outstanding currently represent about 22.4 billion shares on the Uganda Securities Exchange, and the 4.03 trillion being their market capitalization. Now, the recent performance of MTN has been good, and this is of course starting the year 2023. MTN closed their last day of trading with 180.01 Ugandan shillings after having dropped 2.2% of their previous trading price of about 184.08 Ugandan shillings. MTN Uganda in the last 3 months is the third most traded on stock, coming behind Stanbic Bank and Umeme Uganda. The company in the last 3 months, from the 10th of October to the 10th of January, has recorded about 16.4 million shares that have been transacted on the exchange for the company. The company's total turnover overall in the last 3 months is about 2.97 billion. So we are talking a company that can make 2.97 billion on a 3-quarter basis. This is what we're talking about. Transactions worth 2.97 billion have been made in just 3 months, and which is quite encouraging. On average, they have about 261,083 traded shares per session, and a volume high of just 9.89 million shares was achieved on the 3rd of January in the same period. MTN Uganda yesterday but one traded the biggest volume of 1.2869 million shares on the market, which was the biggest volume so far that they have had this year in the new year 2023. And following this big volume, there was an increase in price by 4 shillings up to 184.08 Ugandan shillings. But it seemed investors were not interested in this price, and finally it's back down to 180,000 Ugandan shillings. And that's MTN Uganda for you. Now, in summary, Uganda Securities Exchange had a volume of about 107,600 shares that were recorded due to trading, of course, on MTN Uganda, Stanbic Bank Uganda, and Cipla Quality Chemicals, who traded about 3,000 shares. Now, the company's currently, the market capitalization of the Uganda Securities Exchange has also gone up to over 25.8 trillion Ugandan shillings. And this is a very big change, because the last time we had this, it's been a very long while. And thank God for the cross listings, but this was a very big gain, especially for us on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Unfortunately, it's mainly on the cross listing. How I wish even the domestic listings had such movements and influence the market capitalization this way. This would be a great way to add value to our local company index, which tracks the aggregate performance of the local stocks. So definitely very, very, very exciting day on the Uganda Securities Exchange, but of course eclipsed by the fact that only the cross listings were able to benefit from this one. Now, as far as the local company index is concerned, I mentioned the fact that it decreased to 272.91 points, of course due to MTN's loss on the Uganda Securities Exchange, which is a bit saddening. But that's the trading we had from the Uganda Securities Exchange. You can buy shares as well. You can buy shares, and it's absolutely easy. You can go to the Uganda Securities Exchange website and open yourself an account. This account is called SCD, or Securities Central Depository Account, and to open it is absolutely free of charge. You need to visit the website with your national identification number and probably a passport photograph, your email, and log in. The rest is history. And then when you open this account, it's absolutely free of charge to get started, and there are no monthly charges, there are no minimum deposits and the like. It's an absolutely open account, and you can be able to buy and sell as conveniently as you find it. And so I urge you, ladies and gentlemen, to get to the Uganda Securities Exchange and support our own, because no one will support us if we don't support each other. So definitely get to give us a thumbs up, get to show us some love on the Uganda Stock Exchange by buying some shares. That's it from the Uganda Securities Exchange. Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to shift the attention now to the Nairobi Securities Exchange in the land of Uhuru. And currently, the Nairobi Securities Exchange registered a loss on their all-share index. I always want to start with the Nairobi Securities Exchange all-share index because it gives us a picture of what's really happening on this particular exchange. The exchange dropped about 1.15 points, about 0.91% of their all-share index, down to 125.54 points, representing a one-week loss of 1.41% and a four-week loss of 0.43%. Now, currently, the company has about 65 listings, and among these, about 48 participated in the day's trading, and ending the day with 8 gainers and over 27 losers, unfortunately, on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Express Kenya, a logistics company here based in Kenya, led the gainers with a 10% gain up to 4.95 Kenyan shillings per share. There's been a lot of fuss about Express Kenya, and the company has been able to gain quite wonderfully on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Now, this is a Kenyan-based company engaged in the clearing and forwarding services for both air and sea, as well as warehousing and logistics services in Kenya. The company now operates over 5 divisions. It has sea freight, air freight, parking and removals, as well as transport and housing. And that's basically their business. And why I always mention these is because you cannot invest in what you don't understand. You can never invest in a company where you're not sure what they're doing. You're just saying, okay, they are a logistics company, but what do they do? You must find out. Very, very important for you before you invest in a certain company. Now, Express Kenya is listed on the Nairobi Securities Exchange with a total of about 236 million Kenyan shillings market capitalization. Now, this represents about 0.012% of the entire Nairobi Securities Exchange equities market, making the company the 55th most valuable on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Yesterday, the company gained over 0.45 Kenyan shillings up to 4.95 Kenyan shillings, which was a 10% rise currently that we are counting. And when you look at the graph, it's quite fluctuating, and it was a very, very sharp increase for the company here on the Nairobi Securities its exchange yesterday. They had about 200 shares that were traded at 990 Kenyan shillings overall in just one deal. There are 47.7 million shares outstanding, and bringing their market capitalization to the 236 million Kenyan shillings mark. Now, it looks like Express Kenya is going upwards and never coming back downwards. I don't know how true that could be, but based on data from Nairobi Securities Exchange, currently in 1 week they have gained 6.91%, and the last 1 month they have also gained 65%. Now, this should really make shareholders very, very optimistic about Express Kenya. In just a single month, you add 65%, not just 50, not just 60, but over 65%. This means it is the best company in terms of 4-week performance on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Now, this is where I'm spotting opportunities for you, my dear viewers and friends. Express Kenya has just made 65% of the Nairobi Securities Exchange in the last 1 month. You want to be a part of that. You don't want to miss out on such big, big deals. Now, currently, the company is the 46th most traded own stock in the last 3 months as well. And between 6th of October and January 10th, they have about 112,300 shares in 89 deals. Well, not that really great and huge movement, but at least pretty fair for the start of the year at the company. Currently, they have in this period about a value of 400,284 Kenyan shillings. That shows you on average how much money has been transacted in 3 months. Away from Express Kenya, Diamond Trust Bank as well gained a 4.25% on their price. It's been a while since Diamond Trust actually appeared in the top gainers here at the Nairobi Securities Exchange. But let's get to look at Diamond Trust Bank. Now, Diamond Trust Bank currently is the 15th most valuable on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. That means it has a lot of influence on the Nairobi Securities Exchange, with a total of close to 15.4 billion Kenyan shillings worth of shares that are listed on the exchange. The company represents 0.79% of the entire Nairobi Securities Exchange equities market. Now, it's been a long while since Diamond Trust gained this much. Generally, the graph looks like it has been downwards, sloping downwards in terms of the recent performances. But on the other hand, yesterday the company added 2.25 shillings to their price, up to 55.25 Kenyan shillings per share, which was a 4.25% price appreciation. The company traded 11 deals, about 9,300 shares, valued at 514,025 Kenyan shillings. Shares outstanding currently stand at about 280 million, and looking at their 1 week performance, they have gained 10.8%, and in 1 month about 13.9%. Diamond Trust Bank began the year with 50.0 Ugandan shillings. Currently, it has gained 10.5% as well in year-to-date performance. Of course, the implication means that just of yesterday's gain, it was the biggest gain and the only gain they have had in the year 2023. Now, DTK also has accrued 14% in 4 weeks, which is the 7th best on the Nairobi Securities Exchange in the last 4 weeks. In terms of trading, DTB or Diamond Trust Bank is doing great as well, in the 14th position in terms of the most traded on stocks on the Nairobi Securities Exchange in the past 3 months, with a total volume of over 4.73 million shares in 398 deals, valued at 228 million Kenyan shillings there on the Nairobi Securities Exchange, with an average of over 75,057 traded shares per trading session. Now, so far, Diamond Trust Bank looks pretty good, and I would say you need to check it out on the Nairobi Securities Exchange, as of course being the 14th most traded on. There's a lot of interest in the this Kenyan company, so you want to be probably part of that interest. Sanlam Kenya was another gainer with over 2.29% added to their price, and Standard Chartered Bank at 1.46% appreciation. On the losing side, however, the TPS East African Serena came out last with an end of day price depreciation of close to 6.47% at 13.0 Kenyan shillings per share, closing the day. Home Africa, the only home developer on the market, lost 5.71% as well, and Longhorn Publishers about 5.61%, and Samia Africa about 5.58%. Safaricom came out with the biggest volume of about 5.56 million traded shares, whereas Equity Group Holdings had about 3.43 million shares, and Cooperative Bank of Kenya about 1.5 million shares. Regarding the performance of the all-share index on the Nairobi Stock Exchange, the index lost a total value of 1.15 points, down to 125.54%, representing a 1 week loss currently of 1.41%, and year-to-date loss of 1.51% as well. Other remarkable indices like the NSE20 and the NSE25 as well lost some bit of value, with the NSE20 shedding off 0.31% and the NSE25 about 0.59%. And that's the trading, my friend, from the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Remember, to diversify your portfolio is to avoid risk. If you're a risk-averse person, definitely diversify by putting your money elsewhere. You can put it somewhere, and in Kenya, somewhere in Uganda, so that you don't have all your eggs in one basket. Now off to the United States. The second day of trading at the United States Stock Exchange ended with the stocks going a little bit higher after Jerome Powell's speech, who is the chairman of the central bank there in the United States. Now the US stocks crawled forward a little bit based on data from the United States Stock Exchange, upwards after Tuesday opening, as Wall Street processed the hawkish rate talk from the Federal Reserve officials and mild remarks from Chairman Jerome Powell at an event hosted by Sweden Central Bank. Now, the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones Industrial Average rose by 0.2% at the start of the session, and the tech-heavy Nasdaq Composite moved up by 0.3%. Thank you so much, my friends, for watching and for keeping in touch. And I'm very, very glad you spare time to get to follow up with the markets. Trading is happening right now as I speak, and you just need to make a decision to make use of that money. I know it's January and it's a very, very hard time, but we can still try and make those investments for the future, for a brighter future. Make investments today. My name is Anthony, and I'll catch you tomorrow, same time, same place. Bye for now.